Okay, so it's been a while since I've done a video, and On Point is making some changes, so we may not even be carrying these for much longer. Or actually, I wanted to do one more build video just because it's been a while. When you unpack your kits, you will have frame, and then everything else you see laying out here, hopefully. So I'm just going to jump right into this. When you go to do it, you're going to want to start with the bottom. That's going to be this piece, and these 4 pieces here. You are going to want your 12 millimeter M3 bolts. We'll get the rest of this stuff out of the way. I like to build one so that way you have one completely finished example when you go to do your other kits. So we're doing the 12 millimeter M3 bolts. Should be the same on both sides. We have these cut for us, so they might be a little snug. If they are, you can thread them in if you have to. Notice how they all fit together just like that. And you're going to take this guy, just like that. Then you are going to, there's a baggie that says steel black nylock nuts, steel silver nuts. You're going to want the steel black nylock nuts. All you got to do is thread them on a little. We're not really going to be tightening anything up until we get it completely, or at least this base part, assembled. You'll also notice you'll have extra hardware. I try to include at least one extra for if you drop something or lose something or anything like that. So one nut is left over. And we're going to flip it back over and put the other 12 millimeters in the section here. This is a 30 by 30 pattern. The flight controller and ESC are 30 by 30 mounting patterns. There it goes. And then your silver ones are going to go here. You'll have a toolkit of your own that will let you do this. So you have your base plate and arms done, extra screws there. Okay, so you should have some of these standoffs in with your flight controllers. Okay, so now you've got everything there. Now we're going to go to the ESC. ESC is going to be in a package like this. We have them custom made, that's why it took so long, for a couple of reasons. Oh, interesting. So they did not include grommets. I'll have to add the grommets in. So let's do that real quick. So there should be little rubber grommets right there. We had them add these because depending on where you're flying, you will eventually need remote ID. And so this is a power pigtail to go to your remote ID. So let me get some of these rubber grommets, and I will I'll go through and put these in each of the ESCs so that you don't have to deal with it. Alright, so we want it like this. So if you look, there's a 1, 2, a 3, and a 4. So that's ESC 1 or motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4. So we want it like this. Just like that. Okay, then we're going to come back with some more of these. I like to have them snug, but not super duper tight. Okay, so now flight controller. Now again, this is your ESC or electronic speed controller. XT60 connector, power wires, remote ID power if at some point, or other power. Just remember, this is straight battery voltage, so it needs to be able to take 12 volts DC, whatever you wind up plugging into that. But for us, the reason we had this added was for remote ID modules. On this is the flight controller. If you look in between here and here, there's something written on the board. It says Z's F7 30x30 V3. So that tells you what flight controller this is. If you ever needed to Google and get information about it, that's what you would be looking for, is the Z's F7 30x30. The VTX that I have here, this is the video transmitter with an antenna coming off of it. It is the TBS Nano 32 Pro. And then the receiver, which that's what this is the FrySky XM Plus. So if you ever needed to look for any information on any of these components, that's what you're going to be Googling online. Alright, so we need this guy. So I wanted to make sure I got the right colors. So the red and the black are your power, positive and negative. And if you look on the bottom of your flight controller, there is printed what each one of these pins are. So it tells me that the battery and the ground go to the right. If we look at our pins, the pins are at the top. So that tells me this one needs to go there. Just like that. And then this one is going to go right there. So the pins are on the bottom. I almost messed up. See, you should always check your pins. Check your pins, check your wires. So on this one, if you look at the top here, it says 4321, then it's got voltage and ground on the far left. We got some slack going on, so again, this is because we had to have adjustments made, or we had to improvise. So what you can do is, here we'll do this. I'll pull you back up, and then what you can do is you can fold it in like that so that you don't have all this slack. So see, I just folded it in like that. And then you're going to do one more of these. Now you have these, but then you also, I have included some of these 4mm nylon standoff. You may or may not use these, because what we're trying to do is make sure there's clearance so that none of this top stuff touches the next board. You know? Now, we look okay, but we won't be able to screw all the way down. So if you were able to see this, because of the, if we were to crank it all the way down, you'd really compress it. We don't want to compress that. So I am going to take these off. Drop those open. So they are just a smidge taller. And so we need that extra little bit so that we don't have anything touching. Touching is bad because it introduces vibrations, potentially shorts, grounding, ground outs, that sort of thing. So again, I don't really want anything touching. So I'm just going to use these slightly larger or taller, whatever you want to call them. And now you see it will go all the way to the base, and we don't have anything touching on the top. So go ahead and add the screws there. Okay, we'll get this and tighten it down. Just a little snug, doesn't have to be cranked. That. Okay, so as of now, you actually have the majority of it done. So we've got ESC on the bottom, flight controller in the middle, power distribution on the top. So now I'm going to do some standoffs. You're going to need the 6mm M3 bolts. Should be 17. Now what I'm going to do, there's one other thing I wanted to tackle. Again, like I said, we had to improv on some things, and one of the things we had to improv on is the camera. The camera that we had been using is no longer being carried, and so we had to get a different camera. The camera is a little bit larger than normally what we go with, so that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to do the build. Okay, so what I'm looking at, this new ESC, it must be a little bit bigger than what the old ESC was, because it looks like we are touching on this back standoff. That can be annoying. There should be an accessory bag. We'll keep moving along here, because when I flew this, I raced it for about a year before we started releasing it. And personally, I was just doing the 2 front and the 2 back standoffs. So it may go that route. I'm going to try. Definitely going to avoid the back tube, because again, we don't want it grounding anything out. We could potentially put some heat shrink on this and then screw it back down to create a barrier between the two. But I am going to proceed with the build and see if we can go without. So I'm going to go ahead and get this on, because the other thing I wanted to do was see about the camera. I want to make sure the camera is going to be okay. Alright, so let's take a look at this camera, because like I said, it's bigger. Yeah, don't need that. So what you'll have some extra wires, some extra screws, instructions. This is if you want to make changes. But as you can see, so we don't want it there, we do want it there. So where are they're in here in the accessory bag. Alright, so we'll use the screws they gave us. Probably the 1.5. These are 3D printed. If you ever need any 3D files, just let us know. We try to get as much of it as we can up on Thingiverse. So for the most part, check there, and if it's not there, let us know. Okay, so we've got it there. I'm gonna look at my little instructions. Shows power on the left, ground in the middle, video on the right. So let's check our pins. Power on the left. Yep, it's all good. Try to make sure nothing gets squashed or crimped or anything like that. Alright, so see, it will go. Looking from the side, we're going to want to make sure we don't hurt any wires or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and start bringing it down. Come on, baby. It is supposed to be snug. So just alright. Okay. So it looks like they will go there. So let's put them there. 6 is better than 4, mainly because I don't know how, if you guys are going to be crashing a lot. I don't know what any, skill levels. We assume that you're going to be novices starting off. So, all right, so 2 we didn't use for the back, 1 left over. Again, if you want, we include some heat shrink that we use for our antenna wires, but theoretically, if you have heat shrink, you could heat shrink it onto the standoff and then screw it in place. But again, I would just omit it. Okay, and so now we have ESC, flight controller, power distribution board. We've done our camera. What we want to do now is our GPS. GPS is going to come in a package like this. So you will need scissors. And all you're going to need is the GPS itself. You shouldn't need any of the wiring because that's what this is going to be. And so you'll see there's an arrow pointing it to go in a certain direction, and then on the back you'll see here. Well, these GPS have a different connector. Alright, so yeah, more than likely what I'll wind up having to do is we'll get rid of this, and I'll have to direct solder it in place. Alright, so you'll put your GPS in like that. I'll supply some glue. We supply glue. You'll want to glue it around the edge so that it doesn't get ejected if you have a hard crash or something like that. So either way, I'll come back to that. I'm just going to let's see, we'll throw on the top plate, so it'll look kind of like that. Like that for now. Alright, so that's what that's going to look like. I'm going to do a motor real quick. Alright, so motors are going to go like that. So basically, that's kind of how it's going to go together. The main things I wanted to touch on, like I said, are the camera's bigger on this video or on this build, which is why I'm basically making the new video. I wanted to point out the nylon standoffs as opposed to the metal ones, just to get you a little extra height. The connector on the GPS is different, so I'm going to have to resolder that. But other than that, it's like, oh, and the remote ID. You won't want it just swinging in the breeze here. You'll probably want to tuck it away somewhere so that it's out of the way. You know, just find something like that, or you know, have it like that. But if you don't plan to have to use remote ID right away, this won't really do you any good. You might just zip tie it out of the way, but eventually you may have to have remote ID modules depending on where you're at, and so we wanted to at least have something there available. So that's basically what it's going to look like. I'm going to make the modifications on this, and then I'm going to start putting everything together so that I can get it shipped out. I hope to have it shipped out this week, but now that I've found some areas that I'm going to have to adjust, it might push it out to the first part of next week. But either way, that's that. Hopefully this helps you, and I will be talking to you soon. Okay, so this is the finished product. I wanted to make one more video just so that I could go over some things that wound up happening. First off, as you can see, I have my antennas on zip ties with heat shrink to keep them rigid and out of propellers. Okay, you'll notice this rainbow cable. So I had to add this cable on because it has a different connector for this GPS. So if you see something different in the instructions or the other instruction videos, that is the difference there. Some other things that I did, we talked about, the ESC is a little bit larger, so I omitted the standoffs that go for these two holes right here. So I would suggest you doing the same. The wires for the LEDs, I routed behind the standoff here, same for there. And then this one I routed inside the stack. Again, trying to keep anything out of propellers. We don't want anything getting in here, so that's why I am showing you how I routed them. I did it the same on either side. As you can see on the bottom, I've zip tied our wires nice and neat out of the way. What else? Let's see. Camera, not a lot of clearance, but it will work. If for some reason you get a guy that's super fast and he wants to have an aggressive tilt, what you may have to do is just raise this up a little bit higher so that there's clearance in here in the stack. These are racing drones. They're meant to go fast. They're meant to conserve on weight and space, and so it is somewhat tightly packed. Wanted to remind, we've got the metal standoffs on the bottom and then the middle, but then on the top we're using the nylon standoffs so that we get the extra clearance, so that we're not touching our receiver or our VTX. I mentioned that we added this for remote ID, so people will eventually probably have to have remote ID. So that's what that's for. I just have it routed up and out of the way. I did not glue this, but I included some glue in your package, so you will need to run a bead of glue around the edge of this. If you do not, and you crash, this will eject, and you'll have a good time trying to find it. I think that is about it. Like I said, it's a slightly bigger camera than what the instructions came with. Slightly different cable look from what the instructions are going to have, and then as well as the omitted standoff there. The only other thing that I wanted to call attention to is the fact that this is loaded with Betaflight. So the ESCs that we had to get, that we were waiting so long on, came loaded with a Blue Jay Bell Heli S protocol that does not work with iNav. So I am sending you it loaded with Betaflight. The GPS still allows it to have what's called GPS rescue, which is basically the same thing as return to home. So it is beneficial, but what you will not have is a position hold. You won't be able to like run missions or something like that. Betaflight doesn't support that. If you want to try to get to iNav, what we'll wind up having to do is figure out a solution for your ESCs. Either get you new ones, replacement ones, or something like that. But that is something you'll have to discuss with Ron, as I probably will not be here much longer. On Point is no longer going to be selling kits. That was what my main focus was, so I don't know if I will be here. That's why I'm wanting to try and give you as much information as possible over the videos. I have my battery routed with the power wire up so that when I'm plugged in, they are nice and neatly wrapped up. Again, no wires dangling around or anything like that. Now, the downside to this is if you have a front hard landing, you potentially could mess up your battery. So if that's the case, if you guys are really starting to smash these up, the plate should give it some protection, but if you're still smashing things up, then you could rotate this. You'll just have to be conscious of this getting up into the props. You don't want that getting into the props. You'll notice a number on the power wire. That is the number 1. So that means that the remote control that shows Cobra number 1 controls this drone because it's number 1. And then actually, if you were to disassemble them, you'll notice it when you go to do your others. But there is also a number 1 on this receiver right here. So if that should cover everything. The receiver is an XM Plus by FrySky. The VTX is a TBS Nano Unify Pro 32. So you can Google that. Don't forget your glue. Each drone is on a different channel, so if that means a VTX channel, video channel, if it's drone 1, then that means it's going to be on VTX channel 1. Drone 2 should be on VTX channel 2. Drone 3 should be on VTX channel 3. The other thing that we've done to differentiate them is each one has a different color. So each drone will have different colors when you get them all assembled. So that should be it. Please email or call with questions. Again, like I said, if I'm not at On Point anymore, I do run a drone racing club called Dallas Drone Racing, and would be more than happy to assist you if you ever wanted to come out for that. We have a website, so look us up. Alright, I think that's it. I'm going to put this in the box and call it a day. I hope you... sorry again for it taking so long. Believe me, that is not what our intent was. But it is what it is, I guess. Again, thank you very much and have a good day.